30 million kids rely on public school meals for 50% or more of their calories. 34 pounds. He kind of plopped it on the table in front of them and said 34 pounds. That's how much sugar I remove per student per year.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of SolPod Studios. My name is Mia Rubiera and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. Today I'm here with Natalie Linden. She's the Chief Operating Officer for the nonprofit Eat Real. Eat Real is dedicated to working directly with public schools, families, and policymakers nationwide to transform America's food system. This is a very topical issue right now, and I am looking forward to learning more about how schools are addressing healthy meals. Thank you for taking the time with me today, Natalie.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Mia. Thanks for having me.
So let's get right into it then. So Natalie, I was really taken aback by a statement on the Eat Real website. It says that the U.S. public schools are the largest restaurant chain in America. So just to kind of recap, America's school cafeterias have more locations than McDonald's, Subway, and Starbucks combined. So that is really surprising if you think about how many Starbucks and McDonald's you drive by. Can you unpack that statement for us, starting with the size of American public school cafeteria systems?
Yeah, I believe that it's over 17,000 locations nationwide and serving 7 billion meals a year. So that's breakfast and lunchtime and sometimes supper. So that is just a tremendous lever in the American food system. And if you can imagine, if we can change what's served on those trays, we can change the trajectory of our children's futures.
That's really amazing. So how many students are we kind of talking about? And does this include only lunch meals?
So there are about 50 million kids in the public school system. Not all of them eat at school, but 30 million kids rely on public school meals for 50% or more of their calories. So if you think about nutrition security, our schools are really central to their communities and to, the next generation of Americans to, nourish our kids. And it is not just lunch, although that's, of course, the picture in everyone's mind. We all remember school lunch. But districts across the nation now also serve breakfast. And sometimes they even serve an after-school meal, which they call supper, which can stand in for dinner for kids who aren't able to have that meal at home.
Wow. Thank you for providing that context. Eat Real's solution is to provide real food to kids, as you just said, for 3 meals a day sometimes. Can you tell us more about how the Eat Real certification, as said on the website, has made this a reality for over 500,000 students and counting?
Yes. So actually, the beautiful thing about our program is that it's community driven. So it's not us providing those meals. It's the incredibly hardworking food service directors in school districts across the country. So school food generally works at the district level, not the school level. And a district can have as many as 100 kids in it. It can have 300,000 kids in it. There's a vast range of sizes of school districts, but it's usually one team defining the menu plans and doing all the sourcing, cooking, and serving of those meals to those kids. So we work directly with those food service directors. We assess their menu plans across a sample month against our 10 standards. And our standards are about 60% related to childhood nutrition, 40% related to things like local sourcing, responsible proteins, and sustainability related issues. So we're looking at things like, food waste, food miles, plant-based entrees, the things that can really move the needle for sustainability as well. We're able to give them, I like to call it the 4 M's. We give them the mirror of their program so they can see their program holistically. I like to think that the job that these food service directors do is probably one of the hardest ones in America. There is so much regulation at the local, the state, and the federal level. They have 30 minutes to serve hundreds and sometimes thousands of kids at a time. It's a very large restaurant chain, so they're doing a lot. So we are able to give them that holistic look at their program. We're able to give them data, measurements. How much sugar they're serving and the opportunities for reducing it, how to increase local sourcing, how to, incorporate more healthy fats into their meals. We're able to give them a map. So here's where you are. Here's some opportunities for how to get to where you want to go. And we're able to give them a megaphone. So we have a lot of expertise in marketing inside the org. My background is not in school food. It's in branding and marketing in the tech world. And we're able to give them all of these things that ultimately help them improve the perception of their program. So, help kids and parents get more excited and more comfortable with having their kids eat food at school, and the participation in their program. Because the way that the business model works in school food is that districts are reimbursed based on the number of kids that eat at school. So, we like to think of ourselves as really just the cheerleaders. It's actually those district leaders who are the real heroes of the story, and it's our job to serve those heroes and serve them up to the world.
I love that. That really sounds like you're making real progress. So when you're talking about the meals that you kind of help schools like have a map for, what does a typical meal look like? I know it could be different for each school depending on the area.
Yeah, I mean, typical, that's the thing about school food. There is no typical. It's incredibly, the circumstances can be very different, even 5 miles down the road from each other, depending on the way that funding within those districts works, depending on the ambitions of that school food leader and what grants they apply for, what ambitions they have for their program and the changes they make. I can tell you, I had school lunch 3 times this week because I was out visiting districts, and I had house-made plant-based spaghetti with angel hair. I had house-made focaccia sandwich with like local deli meat and cheese. I had a taco bowl that was all made in-house, including down to the salsa and the guacamole. It was incredible. The line was out the door for the full 30 minutes of the lunch period. I had a salad that was made from 100% locally grown produce. So, whatever image you might have in your mind of school food, soggy pizzas, whatever, that's not what Eat Real districts are serving. And it's really, really incredible what's possible with school food and what our kids are getting to eat.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. I love how you're working with the community to give them access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and also working with everyone to create meals like this. It really sounds like the progress you're making in these schools is making a real difference, especially as Eat Real is such a young nonprofit as it is. Can you tell us about the role of awareness in your work?
Yeah, so we like to think of it as a sort of a 360 degree, like a surround sound impact model. Obviously, certification programs at their heart are really about awareness, right? They're about, imagine you walk into a LEED certified building and you see that LEED certification at the front door. It's meant to give you an idea of the people who built that building, the people who work in it, right? And that's really the same thing as Eat Real certification. When you see that plaque on the cafeteria wall, it means that, those kids are getting a different kind of meal. So, awareness of our program is important because it helps mean something when people walk in and they see that plaque. But awareness of school food is important too, and the power of real food is important. And so we really work to make sure that everybody understands what's possible and what's at stake. The U.S. life expectancy has been in decline since 2014, since before the pandemic. Today's 3-year-olds are in line to see 693 fewer sunsets than their parents. And a lot of that is reversible, and it's due to ultra-processed food-related diseases and lifestyle. So, 67% of the calories that our kids consume are ultra-processed. I mean, if we can make that migration to real food, not just at school, but at home too, we can make a big difference. And what we also see is that what kids eat at home, they are more likely to gravitate to at school, and vice versa. So we also work with districts to make sure that the food is culturally relevant. That if your kids are eating pozole at home, they're eating pozole at school. If they love ranch dressing with their carrots, they're getting a fresh ranch dressing, with their carrots, because that's how we help kids learn to make better choices everywhere they eat. So awareness is really important because, not just for our program or for our school districts, but for our collective future. Real food's where it's at. And in a lot of ways, we're actually really just trying to take school food back to the way it used to work. It used to be local, culturally relevant recipes cooked by local community members using local ingredients and cooked fresh. and served fresh by those same people. And so, in a lot of ways, we're really just trying to go back to maybe a more traditional way of eating.
I completely agree. That is absolutely amazing. And a lot of where kids can also learn about like healthier foods and like different recipes
Yes.
is through school now. And they're able
Yes.
to try new things. And that's just absolutely incredible. Um, if you don't mind me asking, why was certification a part of that as opposed to other mechanisms for change?
Certification is really such an ingenious mechanism for this work, I have to say, because of the scalability of it and the community driven change aspect of it. So, from a scalability perspective, for every district we work with, let's say an average, we've got 15,000 or 20,000 kids in a district. There are many districts that are very large that we work with, but on average they tend to be somewhere in that size range. For every one district we work with, we're able to reach that many kids, right? 15, 20,000 kids at a time. So if the scale of it, it's very easily scalable and can move quickly, which is incredible. And then it's community driven. We're not the ones doing the work. We're the ones holding up the mirror and providing the measuring stick
The
and
four
the map
M's.
and the megaphone. But ultimately, for this kind of work to be sustainable, it needs to be driven and maintained and sustained by those district leaders. So certification is a way for us to enable, but not step in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure the impact you can do through that by giving like district leaders like all the options, like you can also work with more schools through that.
Exactly. And the other thing that's really beautiful about the program is we find almost universally that that it does increase participation because kids really love real food. They have taste buds too. They're foodies. And if you give them the chance to experience delicious homemade food, they pick that. They pick that as the choice. Um, you know, One of the things I love too is just the connection that one of our standards is actually real food education and being able to turn the cafeteria into its own kind of classroom, making sure that kids have a chance to taste test. These district
Mm-hmm.
leaders do taste tests of new menu items. They invite the farmers, the local farmers, into the cafeteria to try new fruits and vegetables, things like finger limes. If you've not tried one of those, I think you should look it up. Or dragon fruit. One of our district leaders says she gets complaints from the parents because the kids now like come home with like slightly stained clothing and ask for dragon fruit at home, but they get a chance to have this food odyssey that's going to change their palates and their preferences for the rest of their lives.
Wow, that's so amazing. I have to ask, is there like a favorite meal that's like been the like kids' favorite throughout all of this? Like,
I mean, let's be real, kids love pizza. But I can tell you, in December we went and visited one of our districts in Northern California, and that pizza was um, focaccia from a local bakery, whole grain focaccia from a local bakery, house made tomato sauce with local tomatoes, um, local organic cheese. They made their own. They made their own sausage from regeneratively raised beef. And then they had like local kale that they turned into this like beautiful. I mean, it was just like a beautiful. I would have paid a lot of money for that pizza. So
exactly.
it's not your average school food pizza, but for sure, districts. I would say, a lot of the things we hear. We hear pozole a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially in California, of course. Pizza is a big deal always, and our district leaders always finding new ways to make pizza. We we joke that our districts are actually a ranch off because many of them have their own ranch dressing recipe, and like we're all just trying to decide whose is the best
Oh my
ranch dressing
goodness.
recipe. But actually, if you go to our website, we have several of the recipes available. So we've actually taken some of our district's recipes and we've scaled them down for home cooking as well. So you'll see several recipes where you can try out, Natomas Unified's breakfast burritos, but you can just make it for 4 to 6 kids, not 100. So
That's really amazing. I'll definitely have to check that out myself. So, kind of turning to how you got started with Eat Real, what inspired you to join it?
well, I spent a lot of my formative adult years in San Francisco. And as I told you, I worked in branding and in marketing. And so, the industry up there is very much food and tech. And I did a lot of food work. I love to eat, and I love cooking, and I love recipes, and I love that world. I'm a foodie. So, there's one part of the triangle. I've been meaningfully engaged in sustainability, both personally and in my work, for a long time as well, since the early 2000s. I spent a year not buying anything new. I've spent weeks of my life carrying my own trash around to see how much I accumulated. I have, studied resiliency and all of those things. So I'm committed to sustainability. And then 9 years ago, I became a mom. And there's the triangle, and now I get to do this meaningful work that, is the nexus of all three of those things. I will also say, I believe in work that you should be working with your friends, or make friends at work, one or the other.
Absolutely.
So the CEO is an old friend of mine, and I got recruited in by her, and it's so wonderful to get to work with her every day. And you better be having fun. If you're not having fun at work, then you are not doing it right. It's also, I feel like it's the most essential ingredient to any movement, is you got to be having fun. So, I think part of what brought me to Eat Real was the possibility of working with my friend. And what keeps me here is the fact that I feel like I'm having so much fun changing the world with my friends.
I absolutely love that. I think that's advice everyone should take with them in whatever career they choose. And I love your commitment to sustainability. So we might have some student listeners out there. And for students who are interested in a career or a pathway of sustainability focused kind of career, what advice would you give them?
Get into food, whether it's school food or not. The two biggest levers for climate change, according to Project Drawdown, are eat more plants and waste less food. So, it's food, babes. I think, school food is such a meaningful space because you're able to, help prevent disease before it starts, and not just, feed these kids, but nourish them and nourish their futures. And it's this vast scale of it, that 7 billion meals a year means that you can have a meaningful impact on planet stewardship as well. So I just think, whether you're interested in nutrition or being a chef, or you want to be a business officer, you want to get an MBA and go be a chief business officer within a district, school food is a really incredible opportunity for making a measurable impact on, repairing our planet.
I completely agree. I think now more than ever, it's wonderful to get into sustainability, and any way you can. I think food is a really good start with that.
Yeah.
So, kind of going back to Eat Real and its overall mission, how can individuals or businesses help support Eat Real's mission if they're watching this podcast today?
Well, we've been scaling nationwide. We're on a mission this year to reach 1 million students. We're about halfway there. So what we did in 5 years, we're doing in a single year. So, if you know any districts or district leaders you'd like to introduce us to, we would love to meet them. And the other thing is donations. So our program is free to districts. We are funded by individuals, corporations, governments, and foundations. And so we always welcome a donation. Every size of donation is meaningful. We can help. When we do the math on it, it's about $5 a kid to have them have more nutritious food for the rest of their academic career, which is pretty impressive. And generally speaking, districts maintain the changes they make even after certification. So you're actually contributing to lasting change.
Wow. Then yeah, that's incredible. I really applaud the work you're doing and the work Eat Real is doing. Going back to working with policymakers, how do you work with policymakers to improve school nutrition policies?
Well, I think it really comes down to the fact that we're a really data-driven organization. So we're able to show these before and after, stories. And And when we have the testimony of these district leaders who have implemented these changes, the prevailing narrative around school food, right, is that you can't change what the kids are eating, because if you take the sugar out, if you take the fat out, you take the sodium out, they won't eat it. It'll go to waste. It'll get thrown away. Meanwhile, we have 32 districts across the nation who are doing this change, and we can prove that actually it does work and kids do prefer it and the food doesn't go to waste, because we're actually also checking on that, right? That's one of the standards. So we're able to provide that data and that testimony and escalate it to legislators to say, okay, well, if you're trying to bring some legislation to bear around school food, let us show you, like, let us provide that testimony that it works. We've been able to do that successfully in California, and we are looking to, replicate that model, in other states and nationwide.
That's incredible. Do you mind sharing a success story where school significantly improved in its nutrition or its meals?
Yes, actually, there's so many of them, but I think sugar has been one of the conversations that has, been very active in the school food space. We actually helped and co-sponsored legislation in California 2 years ago to establish the very first sugar standard in school food. And it was actually based on our Eat Real standards. And then that standard actually influenced the USDA's federal requirements for school meals. So, we were able to have, based on, the experience of our district leaders in California, we were able to have a positive impact on all 30 million kids, that are eating lunch at school. So really special. But to show what that looks like when you're actually in a district, we had a school leader who got certified, and he went to present his certification to his school board, and he took a radio flyer full of bags of sugar that stacked up almost as big as like a 4-year-old and said 34 pounds. He kind of plopped it on the table in front of them and said 34 pounds. That's how much sugar I remove per student per year through Eat Real certification.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And with no negative impact on, the amount of kids who showed up for lunch and for breakfast and lunch, because, the food's great. It's delicious.
Mm-hmm. And like you said earlier, kids that are eating healthier meals tend to choose that over other types of meals. That's incredible. And of course, pizza will always be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of getting into our final question now. We ask everyone who joins us, what would your sustainability superpower be and why?
My superpower in work and in life is storytelling. I'm a storyteller. I've been a writer for as long as I can remember. It was my career until I, migrated into other things. And, I believe very strongly that what we perceive is what we believe. And so, in sustainability, it's so important in anything, in any movement. It's so important to help paint the picture of what success looks like. Our vision at Eat Real is that every child deserves a healthy, delicious future on a livable planet. And that's what we stay focused on, is like, what is that positive change we're here to make come about? It's also important to be able to paint the picture of what the negative possibilities are, but I really believe that the positive is where it's at. So, I'm just so thrilled to be in a role where the thing that I was put on this earth to do can be put towards something so important as our kids' futures.
That is a great superpower. Oh my goodness. Storytelling really is the foundation of so many things, like in telling people about organizations and nonprofits. I really appreciate that. Well, thank you, Natalie, for joining us today. If people want to learn more about Eat Real, they can go on the Eat Real website, which is eatreal.org, or on social media. I wish you and the Eat Real team all of the best with the amazing work you're doing to improve the health of our children and our communities. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was great talking with you.
Likewise.